This BMW M3 should have been a straightforward project. It came in crashed, damaged, but at first glance, nothing that should stop it from running. But from the moment it arrived, something didn't make sense. It would crank, but it would not start. And that immediately turns a simple crash rebuild into something far more complicated. Because when a car has visible damage, you understand what you're dealing with. But when it also refuses to start, you're suddenly dealing with something hidden, something unknown, and that's where this story begins. Before that, if you're coming across this channel for the first time, don't forget to smash the subscribe button, like and share this right now for more videos. This wasn't even the first attempt at this build. The original BMW M3 project had already gone wrong completely. Stolen and eventually taken back by Copart. But by that point, everything was already committed. Parts were already bought. Plans were already made. So another M3 had to be sourced quickly to keep the project alive. Same idea, same vision, same expectation. Fix the crash damage, repair whatever needed repairing, and get it running again. But from the very first inspection, something stood out immediately. This car wasn't just damaged, it also wouldn't start. And that combination is where problems get dangerous. Because crash damage is visual. You can see it, you can measure it, you can understand it. But no start issues, those are invisible. And when both exist at the same time, you don't know which one is the real problem yet. So the first step is always the same. Strip everything back to basics. Fuel, spark, compression. One of those three will always tell the truth. And the quickest test is fuel. So brake cleaner is used as a substitute fuel source. Because if the engine has spark and timing, it should at least attempt to fire. Even a cough, even a misfire. Something. So it is sprayed in, and the engine is cranked. But nothing happens. No sound, no attempt, no change at all. Which immediately eliminates one possibility, but replaces it with a more worrying one. Because now the question becomes, if it's not fuel, and it's not even trying to ignite, then what is actually missing? Next step, spark. Because without spark, nothing else matters. A spark plug is removed, checked, connected externally, and the engine is cranked again. And this time, the answer is clear. Strong spark. Clean, consistent ignition. No hesitation. Which should be good news. But instead, it makes things more confusing, because now ignition is confirmed. So combustion should be possible. But the spark plug tells a different story. It is completely dry, no fuel smell, no residue, nothing. Which creates a contradiction that doesn't make sense yet. Because if spark exists, and fuel is supposedly being delivered, then at least some sign of combustion should appear. But there is nothing. So now the investigation shifts again. Fuel delivery, or something controlling when fuel is injected. At this point, diagnostics are plugged in, and the BMW immediately starts throwing fault codes. Camshaft sensor faults, short circuits, permanent errors, intermittent signals, multiple systems showing conflicting information, which leads to the first assumption. This is electrical. Maybe wiring damage from the crash, maybe ECU confusion, maybe sensor failure. Modern BMWs can behave unpredictably when sensors fail. So the logical approach is to test them, swap them, clear codes, recheck readings, and then something unexpected happens. All engine-related faults disappear, completely. No errors, no warnings, nothing, which should mean progress, but instead, it makes the situation worse, because engines don't fix themselves. And when faults disappear without explanation, it usually means the system is no longer detecting reality correctly. Even with no fault codes showing, the engine still refuses to start. So now the investigation escalates again, because we are past guessing. The next step is compression. This is the test that removes all theories, because compression is mechanical truth. If compression exists, the engine can run. If it doesn't, nothing else matters. The gauge is installed, the engine is cranked, and the reading comes back. Extremely low, almost nothing. Not slightly low, not uneven, but consistently poor across all cylinders tested. And that changes the entire direction of the diagnosis. Because low compression is not electrical, it is not sensor related, it is mechanical failure. At this point, there is no choice left. The engine has to be opened. Because low compression usually points to timing issues, valve damage, or head gasket failure. But this engine doesn't behave like a typical failure case. So the rocker cover is removed, and immediately something is clearly wrong. The camshaft area shows signs of damage that cannot be ignored. A journal has picked up, metal has overheated, and one section is no longer moving freely as it should. It is effectively seized. which explains far more than expected. Because the camshaft controls valve timing, and if it cannot rotate freely, everything else falls apart. Fuel injection timing becomes incorrect. Valve opening becomes inconsistent. Compression cycle fails. And the engine appears completely dead even though it still physically turns. And now the real cause is clear. This is not crash damage. This is not ECU failure. This is lubrication failure. Oil starvation has occurred inside the engine. And over time, that has caused the camshaft journal to seize. The surface has overheated. The metal has expanded beyond tolerance. And eventually, it has welded itself under heat and friction. Once that happens, the engine stops behaving like an engine. It becomes partially locked mechanically, and every earlier symptom now makes sense. Dry spark plugs, no fuel combustion, confusing fault codes, low compression. Everything connects back to one root cause. Oil never reached where it needed to go. And the most likely explanation is not the crash itself. It is what happened after it. Possibly a damaged oil cooler, possibly low oil pressure after impact, possibly even someone attempting to drive the car home without realizing the damage. Because in performance engines like this BMW M3, oil starvation doesn't take long to cause serious internal damage. Sometimes minutes is enough. Metal expands, clearances shrink, and friction builds until parts begin to seize. Slowly at first, then suddenly, until the engine stops functioning properly altogether. But here is where things take an unexpected turn. Because after partial cleaning, inspection, and careful reassembly, the engine actually starts. It fires, it runs, smoothly, no knocking, no catastrophic bottom-end noise, just a surprisingly stable idle, which completely changes the situation again. Because now the engine is not dead, but it is not healthy either. It is somewhere in between, alive, but damaged, working, but compromised. And now the real decision begins. Because this is no longer just a repair. It becomes a choice about how far this build should go. Do you repair the head properly? Do you send components away for machining? Do you rebuild it back to stock reliability? Or do you turn this into something far more extreme? A properly built performance engine with real power potential. Because now the foundation exists. It just needs deciding what it becomes next. And that is where this BMW M3 story pauses. Because what happens next could either fix it properly or turn it into one of the most powerful builds that Matt has ever done.